Hello! Welcome to this afternoon's Facebook Live. I am again in the Katie Sue headquarters studio. I love it in this place. And today I am going to be showing you how to make this amazing handbag. We've got all sorts of other bits and pieces to show you as well, but it's celebrating the fact that Katie Sue have bought out a Fantasy Realms range. We've got in there some dragon skin. Let's have a look at what we've got. All sorts of bits and pieces. So we've got some dragon skin, we've got eyes, we've got claws, we have got all sorts. And the guys up at Katie Sue gave me a few bits to play with. And I instantly fell in love. So we've made this pretty cool, well, I think it's pretty cool, handbag. But I still can't decide, I'm torn, whether this is a dragon that's in disguise or it's a handbag that's been made out of dragon skin. I'd like to confirm that no dragons were harmed in the making of this bag. But I'd love to see your comments as to whether you actually think that it is a dragon that's hiding or something that has actually been made out of dragon skin. And of course, because it's me and it's using one of my handbag kits, then you can pick it up as well, which I think is pretty cool because we've disguised that handle in there as part of the tail. So really rather cool. I love the front, the wing on there. I think that is pretty cool, and we're going to show you just how easy that is, but I think that adds a kind of real sort of detail to it. And if I lift that up slightly, can you see the lock on the front of it as well? Really cool. And then the back of that bag, look, has the tail on there, so kind of snake round, and that's what we've disguised as part of our handle as well. So without any further ado, shall we get started? First of all then, we need some cake, which is always a good place to start. I'm going to pop this little baby behind us, and then actually you'll probably see, look, don't know whether you can see behind, but we've done some dinosaur with it. There are cute dragons. We've even got a book, whether you can see that over there. So there's all sorts of bits and pieces that I was inspired by the minute that these moulds arrive. We need to give a little shout out for Matthew, my youngest, bless him, he was 12 this week, and I wouldn't let him eat his birthday cake. How mean am I? Because there's death by chocolate cake in there, so the guys, if I don't get that straight in the car when we've done, we'll be eating that one. So Matthew wants his cake back. But it doesn't have a name yet, so if you're up for it, put your comments below, tell me what the dinosaur ought to be called. We're also having a Name the Dragon competition on my Facebook page. So again, give us your ideas and thoughts on what that one should be called. Right, I'm going to bend down and pick up some cake. So here we have it. Trying not to rustle on the microphone, but I always try and carve on plastic because it means that I can carve it, I can then bag it straight up, and I can either get rid of those bits in the bin or I can use them for my cake pop mix. So this is wrapped up in cling film just because I didn't want it to dry out really when I've prepped it. And we'll get the base to our kits. So this is the handbag kit. Not sure whether you saw it last time or whether you've never seen this before, but basically it's a new carry cake system from me. And what it does is allow us to pick things up. So we make things in the shape of bags and paint cans and all sorts, basically. So really nifty bit of kit. Last time I was here, we were doing sort of baby baskets. We were doing that round one here. And we also did the quilted one as well, using Kerry's continuous quilt. So, this measures 10 by 6. And what I've done is cut 3 pieces of cake, each 10 by 6. That top piece of cake, however, if I bring this way, so the top piece of cake, can you see, instead of it being 10 by 6, look, I've actually then cut it, and what I'm going to do is layer it like so. It just means when you're baking that actually you're trying to bake in a tin and use what it is that you can. So if you're baking in a 10-inch, don't worry that that's then 10 by 5 when you cut it in half, because it will absolutely slot onto there, no problem at all. Now this feels a little bit alien and a little bit strange because we're going to put, get rid of that cling film, we're going to put the smallest cake now at the bottom, then the next layer, and you're going to think, oh, it's not going to work, it's all going to fall over. Well, it's not going to be there for long, okay? So layer it up like so. Just move that into shot a touch so you can see it. And then I'm going to place my base platform on top of it. You won't see here because it's black on black, but there is a hole in there and it's like I'm just about to slot a sword in. And I'm going to do exactly the same. Can you see there's a hole there, look where my finger is? And you're going to slot the long supports in like so. Once I've done that, I've basically skewered my cake. And it means that I can turn it over. And they are there then like so. So already now we can pick that up and we're good to go. Get our carving knife. And this is so simple, it's not true. I'm going to go next to this handle and I'm going to cut outwards. So from here, I'm going to cut outwards towards the bottom. So cutting down, and you almost very nearly miss that bottom one. You're not really doing a great deal of cutting on the bottom piece of cake, like so. Then can you see from the top that we're still quite wide? Look, now you can probably see why I didn't want a piece of 10-inch cake right at the top, because I'm going to go right next to that handle and I'm going to lop it off. If you're worried about doing this, take a look at the Katie Sue website, because I've done 2 handbag templates, great carving templates. They're also great if you're not using this kit and you just want a handbag that doesn't pick up, you don't know where to start with shape. So these make great reference points, but if you're not using those, take a look at those templates. They're all there for you on the Katie Sue website. And there's a medium handbag and a large handbag. So this is basically the large handbag. That's what you're looking for when you're on there. So it really is as easy as that. Look, we've literally just carved one side, carved the other side, taken the 2 sides out, and job is a good one. Now looking back, I'm using the camera now, so I can see what shape we've kind of got, and I can see that we're all a bit skew-whiff on one side. So I use my phone a lot, and it would be at this point that I move the cake around and I take photographs of it from all different angles. And what that allows me to do is see what the shape looks like. You know, is it square, is it level, does it look even? And that then would about do me. So I like to use ganache when I'm crumb coating. If I wanted to layer this cake, it's now that I would actually lift off those pieces, I would put layers in, and then I would slot all of that back together, basically. I use ganache because it's a great form of cement. So I would now be ganaching that cake, making sure that the ganache is about the consistency of a chocolate spread, basically. Get that out of the way. And in true television style, there we have it. So yeah, you want about a chocolate spread consistency and cover the whole thing. What I've then done is just made sure that that's nice and smooth. And what I've done is use what we call hot palette knifing. That's where we get a mug of hot boiling water, you're heating the palette knife, and then basically covering that over. Now, you'll notice that this side of the cake has a big hole in it, but we didn't carve a hole in it when I was just carving. So what I do is leave it flat like so, and then I'm ganaching over it. If I try and dig that out as it is and then try and ganache all of that surface, I am just gonna make one heck of a mess. Everything's gonna crumble, everything's gonna fall, it's gonna all basically implode into itself and just be an absolute disaster. So what you actually do is allow it to set and ganache it over, and you've got a nice smooth surface. Then, once I've done that, then basically I can cut out whatever it is that I need. Let's get a piece of kitchen paper. So trying to work clean so that the board's ready for us for when we do something else. But can you see now how I can dig out? So I can dig out part of that cake, and I can actually take it right down to this surface if I wanted to. So I can come all the way, look, to this edge. Well, I couldn't have done that at all, could I, if I was dealing with just cake on cake. So the fact that I've got a ganached surface to work through means that I can actually carve right up to that line and get really quite good and unusual shapes. Take the handbag situation out of that. Think about a shoe. Think about a trainer. A trainer that looks like you can actually put your foot in it is exactly that principle that I've used. So it's about ganaching the whole thing to then digging out and re-ganaching. So that's what we'll do now. So hopefully my ganache is still nice and soft. It is. But how much easier is that now? That we can just fill in. So can you imagine, I've tried to have carved that thin before. It's just not going to happen, is it? You're going to end up with an absolute mess. And I've only made this up this morning, so it's not like we're waiting several days for anything to go hard or for it to dry. But how much easier is that? And even though we've got crumbs kind of going on in there, we've really not got too much bother. I'm just going to turn it to me for the last part so that we can see what I'm doing. Get rid of that. So the guys up here don't quite believe me that cakes don't take me very long to make. But guys, we are just over 10 minutes in, and already we've carved, got a detailed shape, we've got something that's smooth, and yes, I know I've not ganached the whole thing, but actually we're ready to go and we're ready to put some stuff on it. So things don't have to take you days and days and days, weeks and weeks and weeks. If you're making cakes for friends and family, it's all very good fun, but if you've got a little business at home and you want to be making cakes that you can put out, impress people and make money out of it, then actually we need to up our game and we need to work smarter, not harder. So that is a great way of starting to get some detail into something without taking too much effort at all. So let me just pop that to one side because we are ready to start looking at these moulds. So this dragon skin mould, absolutely love it to bits. Gets me very, 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 very excited. There's so many things. We were already talking this morning, we must have mentioned about 20 different things that we could use this for. So whilst it's a nice deep impression, can you see around the edges that actually they've thought about this, that you're going to be able to match up those pieces so that you've got one continuous piece. I'll show you in a moment how I've also used it as one continuous impression mat as well. So actually not used it as the mould at all. Let me just give my hands a wipe so that they are clean. Covered in ganache. Story of my life. Always covered in ganache. Okay, so I've got my corn flour and I'm just going to season this mould. So I'm giving it a really good kind of work through. A nice soft clean brush is really good as well for this, making sure that you're getting everything in that mould. If you feel that you've not quite seasoned it well enough and it's gonna stick on you, then I literally just pop that into the freezer. Pop it in the freezer for about 10 minutes and nothing sticks at all then. Everything peels straight out. So dust down my surface as well. Now then, I am working today with some people call it a modelling chocolate, but it's from Sweet Success. They brand it as their chocolate silk, so like a chocolate sugar paste. absolutely love this stuff. So it tastes amazing, which is always a good thing. And I've coloured it with the Renshaw's Pro Gels. So the original one that I did was green. That was with the gooseberry. So that's the one that you've already seen. But today we are going for red. It's a little bit of a nod. Kerry Griffiths and I are at the Welsh cake show at the weekend. So it's the first cake show that they've ever done. So we're really, really excited. And seeing as I'm going to Wales, I can't really go with dragon stuff and it not be red, can I? So Rhiannon had said that she wanted to see a red dragon, so she's got one. Right, I'm not really too concerned about the size and shape of this at the moment. I'm going to place it down with my decent side underneath, so that's actually facing the mould. Now I would never normally use a sharp knife near a silicone mat, but I'm actually not cutting. All I'm doing is scoring, and I'm scoring smaller than the border. That's what I'm up to. I've not gone too thick on this either. I'm at about the sort of 3 or 4 mils thickness, so usual cake covering thickness. Because don't forget, you want people to eat this. You don't want them to be chewing their way through masses of stuff. So can you now see, look, that we're a little short? I know, I'm always a little short. I'm Dinky Doodle. But we've gone sort of slightly shorter than our border, and I've done that for a reason. What I want to be able to do now, look, is with my fingers, I'm pushing downwards and outwards so that I'm really pushing the moulds towards the edges, but I've not got massive overlap that I need to start trimming off. You'll notice though we've not gone anywhere near the middle yet, so we need to make sure we don't forget the middle, because otherwise you're going to have no impression in the middle. It'll be really detailed around the outside and not anywhere else. Give it a press down and a rub with your hands. If you go over with a rolling pin, no problem at all. What you'll find is you'll probably push it out just a touch either side of the border. You can either trim that then or just poke that back in. And then using the handy little tab on the mould itself, literally peel that away. How fab is that? Now, don't ever worry about the corn flour that's on here. That can come off straight away. And if I had vodka or gin, I would be, once the cake was finished, putting that in my airbrush, airbrushing the whole cake with a little bit of clear alcohol, and it just gets rid of the lot. Of course you can steam it, but we're going to be airbrushing it, so I'm not really concerned at all. But it's better to use the tools in the right way and get some corn flour on there than struggle. But how easy was that? And how detailed is that? Honestly, absolutely in love with this mould. Really, really love it. It's genius. Love it, love it, love it. So, it's in sections. You've got a certain size mould. Poor Katie Sue can't produce something that's 4 foot long, hoping that you can do the cake in one go. So I decided, actually, because we were doing a handbag, let's go with the sections. Let's actually just go with it and build it up as it is there. So taking our cake like so. Now you'll have to excuse me because I'm going to be working sort of over the front of what it is that I'm up to. But I literally, rather than going on the straight, she says, I went on the diagonal first. I'm patting it down because my cake is quite solid and it's quite dry. I could be using an edible glue, piping gel, or just wetting this ganache over a little bit. But actually the heat of my hands, it's sorting that out, no bother at all. So there's our first section done, basically. So having that front on there, look, we've completed quite a large section of that already. And then, again in true television style, you don't want to watch me doing about 20 of those. So look at that. This was about 20 minutes work this morning, just literally in and out, putting the moulds in and out, and away you go. We could look at where we're going to cut this, where we're going to put the next one. Now can you see there's a little gap there? So it's because it's not, I could make sure that that gets lined up with another little piece there. But actually, I quite like it, and I might make a detail out of that and put that stitch mark across that piece just there. So not really concerned about that in the slightest. I'm just pressing over the handle just to allow the handle to pop through basically, and then laying this next piece, you can see around this side, laying the next piece on. If I need to get in there and just give that a little bit of a tug, that tugs up no problem at all. Now we're putting that dragon wing on, aren't we, at the front? So actually, if you don't want to waste any of the impression mat, then you could not do that bit. It's no problem at all. Give it a quick trim. Around the handle, so that always make sure that the handle is free. And then just keep adding basically. Keep adding away. Doesn't matter that things overlap, it doesn't matter that there's gaps, there's funny shapes, because all of it is about that higgledy-piggledy kind of stitched bag. Basically, when it comes down to the bottom, look, you're still being able to shape it just like you would an ordinary bag, an ordinary sugar paste that you're covering. And don't forget that you always over trim, so trim longer than you need it to be, and then give it a quick tuck under there, and you're good to go. Little bits like this, look, I've cut off. You see I've got a nice little angle there, and I would be looking at popping that down at the bottom just there, and I'm just going to give that one a tuck underneath. Give that a trim later. This one will fit quite happily in there. I'm going to take the handle off because we can. So how much easier does that make it? Again, pushing down on that handle, that post, so that you can just see where you're heading. And if the mould meets, you know, another piece, just cut it and trim it. It really, really is so simple then to put together. Cut these bits out, layer it all up. And basically just keep going. So we'll just put another couple of bits on so it looks like it's almost covered, because there's things on the front and the back that I need to show you. So this piece here, look, doesn't need to be a full one at all. Like so. And as you've seen, I'm not using any glue. Like I said, if you'd have wet this ganache down, or maybe used some piping gel, then it would be sort of sticking a little bit easier, but we're not doing too bad actually. Not doing too bad at all. Again, trim those off with a little bit of excess. I'd rather there was too much than too little. What we can't do with one of these cakes is stick some ribbon around the bottom. Doesn't work. Does not work at all. We've got another quite large bit. Let's get some of these little bits. Down here. Sorry, try and turn it towards you so you can see what I'm up to. So it's just really kind of like a jigsaw, just matching up. If you're really struggling to work out where it is a piece needs to fit, put a piece of paper to it, or a piece of kitchen roll or greaseproof paper. Crease it across so that you've got the shape that you need, and then you can cut it from there. So it should really go together nice and easily. This bit down here we just need to, so I've got a bit, look, that almost fits, so I'm going to go with it. But then this bit I just need to tease down to join it. And if you're working quick enough, and particularly because you're working with a chocolate paste, you'll have time to mess around. So this bit, look, I put down a few minutes ago, but actually I can now just pull it down and allow it to join where we needed it to. Try not to press too hard, but don't worry if you're losing some of the impression, because we can put it back in a moment, which is really rather useful. I'm just putting this last piece on here where I can see it. Turn it around to face you now I've got it in place. Give it a good press on. Is it going to stay? I'm being waved at in the corner. Does that mean we've got a question?
Yes, so I've got Helen. She's asking, should you add the kits onto your cake costs when you're selling your cakes?
Hello, Helen, firstly. Yeah, the cost of the kits is just like the cost of the board, the cost of the flour, the cost of the sugar paste. So it all needs costing out as part of that cake. The cake kits are currently £15 each, and I haven't had yet a chance to put a little cheeky coupon code on there, but as soon as this demo's done I will do. So if you put the words Katie Sue, no spaces, into the coupon section at the checkout, then I'll give you £3 off. So don't try that just yet, but try it once we've finished and I'll have that up and running for you. So don't forget to use that code. But yeah, absolutely, it is part of the cost of the cake, just like your flour, your box, your board, your ribbon, everything that goes into that cake is a cost, including your hourly rate. Loads of people just really don't charge enough for cakes. It's a sad, sad thing, but hopefully watching me do this in an hour, you'll see that actually things like this are possible. Right, I've got another bit of a strip to put together, and another bit, and then we're about done. Now you'll notice probably that there is no eye on this handbag, whereas the one that I made for photographing has an eye in it. So we're going to go through that next. Just turning it round and making sure that everything is covered. There we go. How's about that? All covered. And I like the fact that it does look all sort of patchworky and really does look quite cool already. So let's take a look at an eye. I'm just going to move these little scraps to one side because I might need them. And I haven't cleaned up the side of this catch, so we can't get our handle in, so that's not much good. So let's do that. Another question?
Yeah, I've got Christine, and she's asking, why do you use Airbrush? Is it to make it shiny? Sorry, for vodka.
Oh, okay. So, yes, I would use an airbrush with vodka in it to make sure I got rid of the corn flour. It could be that you're going to steam that cake to get rid of the corn flour. So there's lots of different techniques to do. But I've got an airbrush to hand. So absolutely, if you airbrush all that up, it takes seconds to get rid of all the corn flour, and then your cake isn't actually too wet either, and it dries better with it being an alcohol than if you were to use a water on it when you're steaming it. The other way that I'll use a clear alcohol like vodka in an airbrush is if I want to adhere things to a cake. So let's say that I've got little bits of applique molds that I want to put on the side, or I've got an edible lace that I want to put on the side of a cake. If you airbrush the whole cake with a vodka or a gin, then actually the whole cake is then ever so slightly tacky. You use that as a glue, but when it's dried, it leaves no marks behind. So everybody needs to start getting clear alcohol in their airbrush to start using it as a glue or doing stuff with it. Also makes excellent shots. So if you don't want to waste your alcohol, they're laughing down the corner. If you don't want to waste your alcohol, yeah, vodka shots through an airbrush is the only way to go. Of course, I don't condone drinking. We are out of January now, so it could be. It can't be anything else but alcohol. The point is, it dries, and it dries clear. Right. We were going to show you an eye, weren't we? That's where we were heading. They distracted me with the talk of booze. That's what it was. So, eyes. Absolutely, again, love this. Really, really useful. We've got our eyes and the irises in the centre, and then we've got all of this detail. Sometimes this is sort of really difficult to do in a cake, but this will make things so quick and easy. Now, sorry, I'm trying not to rustle. I'm just getting out some white sugar paste first, and I only need a little bit of this. Making sure it's nice and soft and pliable, and then I'm popping that onto the middle of the eye. Sorry, it's white on white, so you can't really see it, but I've gone a lot smaller than you would actually need. So that I can push that out to the shape of the iris. Now, it doesn't want to be uber thick. So if I pop that to this, can you see how thin that is? Look, so I've not got a big bulging eyeball sticking out or anything. I need to make sure that we have seasoned this well. I didn't do with the eyeball, so we'll hope that that comes out, but we'll see what happens. And then basically we can get our colour now. Give it a bit of a roll. Place this on, and I'm giving it a real good pat down because I want to make sure that it's going to stay put and that I've given all of that detail, that I've really kind of got it in there. Now if you want to, if you need it thicker, you can fold over the excess. You notice I'm only doing one eye because I only need one eye, I don't need a pair. That's the only reason, otherwise you could have done that. So fold it over if you want to. Now I can give it a good roll. You'll end up with the excess. Give it a bit of a trim off, because we don't like to use knives near silicone. Then the back of the Dresden tool's absolutely fine. And then give it a peel. Oh look, the white eye stayed in, look. Let's get that out. There we are. And pop that in place. And don't worry, if you've put too much white in that middle of that eye to begin with, then what you'll find is that it goes over this border on the edge of the eye. Can you see here? So it's just a little bit too much. If it's soft enough, your Dresden will actually sort that problem out. So it wasn't an issue, was it, that actually one didn't come out with the other? But the reason that that happened was because I put that in, then I put corn flour all over it. So I put corn flour on the back of that iris, and then I've put the other bit on. That's the only reason it didn't stay. So we'll just poke that back into place, that's no problem. But if you're worried that it's not neat enough, don't worry. When you're dusting and detailing or airbrushing that up, then actually it will all come to life anyway. but look at how detailed all of this around here is. Really, really stunning. And then you can paint all of that up. So all we've done on the handbag is place it in place. I'm just going to cut out a little bit of that. Put that in there. And then I can either put those little bits back, like so. A little bit there. So if I want to make a big deal out of these joins, because actually that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? We've done it in sections and we're trying on purpose not to have them blended and joined together. So take your Dresden tool and actually make real crease lines out of it, so it doesn't look like you can't cover a handbag. It looks like it is supposed to be part of the design. Otherwise we'd have gone out of our way, wouldn't we, to cover that up and make that look, you know, disguised, whereas we're trying to make a big deal out of it. Okay, so by actually putting those deep lines in there, we can make it look a bit more like it's all been stitched together. Okay. But that's the eye in place then already. Now you'll also remember that we've got some claw detail going on, and how clever is it that actually we've got claws that look like they're holding on to the tail in order that you can pick up the handbag, and the claws are really, really very, very cool. So here is the claw mould. I'm just going to make sure that I have put cornflour in there. I'm sure I did, but you never know. And then I'm going to take some white again, roll that so that it's nice and soft, and then I'm going to pop that into our mould. And I'm using a Dresden tool here just to make sure that it's really, you know, stuck in. I'm also using the Dresden to cut it away when there's too much. And at the very, very end there where the claw finishes and the detail starts, I'm just going to use my Dresden to come down a little bit. So I'm covering the whole of the nail, but it will allow me to infill with something else. So again, in it goes. I've got a bit of coloured paste in there, but that's not on the top, so you shouldn't see it through. Of course, you don't have to do this extra little bit of detail. It doesn't need to be white. But me being me, I can never just do things normally. But I think it's great that they've given you that detail of the claw in there, so that you can, it's come out completely. So we've got plenty of cornflour in. There we go. And then add the colour. So again, just kneading it to make sure it's nice and soft and that you've got a smooth section that you're about to push in, basically. It doesn't want to have all those creases and cracks on it when you've just sort of rolled it up. And then using the Dresden, I'm smoothing that away. And if I just draw it across here, again, don't worry that the colour has gone all the way across, it's the back. So no one is going to know. Well, I hope so. It's going to look all right from the front. It's always a bit of a surprise as to what you ended up with at the front. Like so. And the last one. So of course we need 2 sets of claws for this. So in it goes, and just I'm going to scrape that way first, make sure that it's all on the inside of that mould, and away you go. And then this is great because you can literally, look, just peel them out. How fab are they? Now I actually get these to dry in a curve like so, but I don't sit there with my finger, just allow them to dry. The edge of the table is absolutely brilliant for this, so just pop that on the edge of the table, or even little rolling pin. As long as you wedge it and it's not going to start rolling anywhere, then a rolling pin is great as well. So you can just start to get the shape really of that extra little bit of detail. But look, in seconds, the detail on these claws is phenomenal. Just all of that would just take you absolutely hours to do that by hand. And commercially for a cake, we need it to look amazing but go together in seconds, basically, is what we need it to do. So we've now done that. Let's get all these scraps together because I want to show you, let me just get this cake out of the way. I want to show you the wing. So I have a little template here of the wing, and it's something that I've just drawn up. It's basically an exact template of the one that I've used on the cake. And how I came about that was obviously starting to look like a triangle, but I curved one of those lines, and then I actually used a circle cutter to draw around those other parts, basically, and using that like a template. So I'm just going to put it to one side for a minute, and we're rolling out I can't use my small rolling pin now because I have claws on it that are drying. Don't go too thick with this. It wants to be nice and thin, but obviously not so that you're going to tear it. And then, just so that it's big enough to put your wing on, and also make sure that you can lift it before you start cutting. That will about do us, look. So place that down. Circle cutter again would be ideal, but mine's down there somewhere, not quite sure where. Ooh, that'll about do us. Of course you don't have to stick to this shape at all, but it's nice and easy knowing that there's a little template there. If you print it out on an A4 paper, it will print to the exact size of this, but of course you can reduce it or enlarge that in size if you need to. Because I'm dealing with something quite delicate, I always get a scraper out so that I can lift without damaging any of these little shapes, and I may well just sort of point up some of the edges as well if I need to. Now you'll notice that the dragon handbag front that we have on there, I'm just going to put it on a board so that I can move it about a bit easier, actually had some sort of shape to it. And I'm rooting about, oh, here we go, barbecue skewer basically. And what I'm going to do is go underneath, and I'm lining up, can you see my barbecue skewer lining up with the point, and then very gently with my fingers I'm going to put a crease in it. I can then slide out the barbecue skewer, lift up again, and what I'm looking at doing, these don't go straight, look, can you see how the 2 points are going to meet? If I put it there, can you see? They're going to meet and then go out like a fan. And I'm just pinching with my fingers and then running that down. It looks like a little animal. Hello. Just running that down. You can tell by Wednesday I'm usually gone a bit mad, haven't I, during the week? It's because they've had me locked in the studio all day. That's what it is. But how easy is that, look, to get definition? Really, really quick. It does not need to be complicated, folks. Then you can either define that even more if you want to, put tissue paper under it to help with the shape. I'm just going in from the other end Just giving it a bit more detail up to the top. Yeah, so if you want to, you can then actually physically pick it up now, look. So once we've got that crease in there, physically lift it and actually put some space underneath it. And you can either let that dry as it is or get that on sooner rather than later and readjust it and re-put some tissue paper under. But a couple of minutes and we've done a wing. It really shouldn't take too long at all. Things need to be nice and easy. Life is far too short. So our handbag cake is, I think, looking pretty okay. Obviously it looks like it's got corn flour all over it, and I think it could do with a dash of colour. So what we're going to do is airbrush it up. Now then, need a piece of kitchen paper. You can obviously go absolutely nuts when it comes to colour. So I've got here, there was the green that we've used last time. So it was what they call a sage green in fractal colours. And then I've edged that in an antique gold. So bear with me and I'll show you what they look like. That's the antique gold there. And then obviously there was that sage green, which I shall find you in a mo. This one, have a look at that. Give us some love hearts, guys. How amazing is that? So that is Kingfisher. And that has then got silver purple around the outside. But I think that's beautiful for a dragon. One of my other favourite colours, I've not got it on a cupcake actually, is this Golden Sunset. Now can you see in the light that it's got, look, it's got gold and it's got red in it at the same time. How amazing would that be for a dragon? Absolutely perfect for a dragon, that is. But we're going to go with claret. Now this was actually on a white cupcake, believe it or not. So you don't always have to do stuff in a colour underneath. But it does mean that actually you'll use far less airbrush colour because we could just be shading little elements of it and kind of just bringing up a little bit of detail. But that's the colour that we're about to head for. So on my airbrush, I'm very fortunate in the fact that it comes with two different cups. So we've got a 7cc cup, but then we've got a 9cc cup, and they just unscrew and reattach. But because we've got the easy release connector, we can actually take the whole thing off and put another pen on, which is very handy. I have a little holder and it just keeps all my airbrushes. So instead of me having to rinse through and change colour, I can just change pen. But that's because I'm spoilt and lazy. So we've got our airbrush on the go. Always, I've just cleaned it so we don't kind of know as in whether there's any water in it, so never turn it on directly over your project. And it's claret that we're using now. So we'll just get this airbrushed up. A bit of kitchen paper. Here we go. Right, literally all you are looking at doing is just spraying on the areas that you want. If you go a good distance away from your cake, you're going to get the whole thing in one go. If you go close to your project, then you will get a nice fine line. So when it comes down to shading it and a bit later on, we'll just be basically moving a little bit closer. Now, there's a reason I've not yet put the tail on. We're going to airbrush that up afterwards in the same colour anyway, so that's no issue. But I want to be able to pick this cake up and move it around. And really, when the tail is on, you need to wait for that to dry. Another question?
I've got Leslie and she's asking what airbrushes do you have?
Hello Leslie. So the airbrush here is the Dinky Doodle airbrush, so it's my own brand of airbrush. It's what we call a single action compressor. And basically what that means is that it only requires one action. That's me pulling back the trigger to get the colour out. So really, really simple to use. It comes, like I said, with one pen that's got two different cups to it, a pink one and a purple one in different sizes. But then also this hot pink pen that you see here is something I sell separately, so if you've already got an airbrush but want a pen with a larger cup, as long as it's single action, you're good to go. And you can interchange them all. And then the other accessory that I've got at the side of me is a cleaning station, so there. And all I would do when I want to change my colour or get rid of something is just pop it in there, pull back the trigger, and it just gets contained in the glass jar. Then at the end of the day, I can just pop all of that in the dishwasher, which is pretty fab. So the colours that I'm using today are Fractal colours. Obviously there's loads of different airbrush colours out there that you can use. What I love about these is that they are water-based, so we've not got any issues for those that don't want any alcohol near their cakes. And also they can go onto any surface. So don't forget that this is a chocolate paste, it's not a sugar paste. So ideally, you know, usually you wouldn't be able to use something like a water-based colour on it. But, you know, we're doing this up no problem at all. Look at how instantly it's changed it from being that slightly kind of old, battered, looks like it's covered in corn flour, to something that is the most amazing colour ever. How about that? So I'm going to pop some shading on for you. I'm going to switch out the airbrush, just because it's easier to do than you watching me clean it. But cleaning is dead easy. So cleaning with water's absolutely fine. You'd pop water in your airbrush, rinse that through, but you'd also block the end of the airbrush with some kitchen paper, blow some bubbles, and it rinses everything through. So they're not very difficult to maintain or keep clean. Of course, I've got loads and loads of videos on how to look after your airbrush and all sorts of bits and pieces, and one day maybe we'll look at airbrushing up moulds just as a whole Facebook Live, and we'll do loads and loads of airbrushing. Now I'm going to keep this then very close, remember we spoke about if I was closer to the project I'd have a finer line, so I'm not looking now at having a whole colour that's going all the way over. I'm looking at bringing in some shaded elements to it, and I'm actually just following the lines on the mould where it's finished, where we've joined that together, and actually highlighting it. So remember when I'd said that there was a gap in places and I rather liked it, I was going to keep it? Well, it actually looks like part of the leather now sort of coming apart, and I'm putting some real dark shading in it so that it really does bring it to life. I'm going to go round the edge of this eye. Sorry, I need to see what I'm doing for that bit, so it doesn't make for great telly, but you'll see what I'm doing in a mo. But all of a sudden, can you really see this does start to come to life? I think it would be a little bit darker in those creases, a little bit round the bottom. Like so. I'll put that back over there. So why don't we get our top to the bag on already, and then we can look at adding the claws and putting that tail on. So I'm going to take a look at this and decide, actually I rather like both bits to be fair, but we'll go with this bit as the front. You see now the difference in colour. So I'm just lining this up, hopefully it's straight. And again, if I really want some lift in there, it's now is the time to start scooching that together and making sure that you've got it where you want it. I need to turn it around to look at it again. And then making sure that the ends of that dragon wing really sort of point where you want them to point. That everything's as straight as you want it. Like so. Now it's a completely different colour, isn't it? Now I'd left it on the green one, look. So I've left it at that natural colour so that it is a little bit lighter. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing again, but we're just going to bring out the edge detail. So again, oh, I think we're empty. So let's refill. So I'm using the purple cup on this airbrush now because it is smaller. Because the temptation is, if you've still got things left, you're going to keep spraying and go, oh, I've got some left, I'll keep spraying. And that's what causes the problem, that you then overspray and just spray far too much. So I'm just very gently going to go around those edges. I would probably put a piece of tissue on underneath some of this, just to keep its shape whilst it's drying. But of course, because it's got that chocolate paste in it, it will dry up pretty quickly. But I think that's enough really, just to bring that together. So we can now take a look at the tail, basically. So let me move that to one side for a moment. So the tail we want to use as part of the handle. And somewhere I have some more chocolate paste. And I'm going to take a piece of that. So I've probably got the size of a plum. Not quite as big as an apple or anything, or a tomato, but the size of a plum. And I've put it into a sausage, and I'm just pushing that sausage over this handle. And what I'm making sure of is that it's quite proud at the top, but I'm pinching it together and it's not going over the plastic handle. So when I go to pick it up at the bottom, that bottom edge is still really quite clean. So in a minute, I'm going to take this handle off and show you exactly what I'm on about. So can you see? So that little bit there, let's just take that off. But that's what I'm after, look. So it's nice and clean at the bottom, but then it fits wider and fatter at the top so that we've still got our tail shape. Ideally, you'd be making this in advance. That's no problem at all, and then it would go nice and hard. But because it's made out of chocolate paste, it will go hard anyway. I'm then going to continue this tail, and I'm actually going over the join, but I'm making sure that the handle, I'm holding the handle up so that it's in its most restricted position, as it were. Carry on rolling that a little bit more. And I'm just basically building this tail look. Now none of it yet looks like a dragon's tail, I get that. And you've got two options for this. You can either impress straight onto that tail using the mould as an impression mat, or you can do what I'm going to do and cover it. So instead of covering it like this, I'm going to go point to point, look diagonally, because actually I reckon I could pretty much get most of that done in one go. And it's now much easier to snip with scissors than it is a knife. To save you pressing this too much, I would consider gluing it on and making sure that it's all nicely together. Just trim up those edges, and then you can just add the next piece, look. So it's something that I've just literally cut off, but just curl it round. If it needs trimming, trim it up like so, and just one section of mould is actually going to go so far. before you need to do another section of mould. And of course, if you've been like me and done all of these up in advance, half an hour's work, it all goes together really, really quickly. Just keep them under cling film. And the next bit. And we should, if we're lucky, look, I can actually mould that round. And then just to not have to use any more, let's pinch that together into a bit of a triangle. For the edge of the tail. Okay, so again we would airbrush that up, but I want to show you how I made it look like the spine of the tail, and actually that was just scissors. So because we've got nice detail, we've got lots and lots of stuff going on the top, look, I can actually cut into that without cutting the plastic handle, like so, and then gently with your Dresden tool you would lift. Like so. So I don't know whether you can see that from the side. Can you start to see, look how it literally, within seconds, we've done all that tail detail, and that would carry on, if I show you this way. Don't forget to keep going the same way that you were going before, look. But that would then carry on down the tail until you want to stop at the bottom. All that we've got left to do then is pop the claws on. So the claws we've already got here. Now I would have airbrushed those up before we put them on. So if we've got enough time, I think we've got a couple of minutes, so we're all right. But look, this is then where they would end up, just placing 1, 2 and 3 like so on one side and then on the other. So let's get those airbrushed up dead quick, because it's a really useful thing for you to see how it is that we've done them. So always put the things that you're working on a piece of kitchen paper if you can. It helps you move them about without touching them. Pop that down there, change an airbrush. Which one have we got the red in? That one. Right, so I'm going to take an acetate smoother now, because what I don't want is the nails spraying up. So just cover them over, spray everything else, and it allows you to not spray the nail. I know it's not rocket science, but all the time people are saying to me, oh, I've now got colour on that bit, how did I get that so wrong? The eye that we've just done, I haven't blanked off at all, so you'll see that that's actually got a bit red, but I just take a Q-tip and some clear alcohol, wash that down, and then I'm able to make that clean again and colour it in as an eye. So the claws would literally just sit on the front of here. Again, you can airbrush up those little details. I'd airbrush up the tail in the same way, but before I leave you, I just want to show you a couple of different ways that I've actually used it. But how quick and easy was this? So we've gone from, in an hour, a piece of cake to a finished handbag, which I think looks pretty cool. We've used it in sections, remember, so we've kept that detail in there. I then put little stitch marks. If I get you the green one back, can you see I've put little stitches in, and that is literally just some chocolate paste or some brown sugar paste rolled into a thin sausage. I make a hole with a ball tool and then just pop those in. And of course, as I was saying, we've kept it that we've stitched our pieces and our sections together. But if you take a look at our book that we've got here, What I've actually done is used it as an impression mat look all the way over, so as one continual piece. And what I've done for that is this. So taking the whatever it is that you're working with, whatever colour, we've obviously got loads left, look, barely anything, like so. And instead of putting that into the mat, what I'm actually going to do is push down. Can you see how I'm keeping the palm of my hand really flat? I'm not putting it in with the heel of my hand, it would be too much. But the palm of your hand nice and flat, and you will get the impression straight away. You can quite happily just move it. If I put some corn flour, it'll stop it from taking it with it. But literally just get the impression like so, straight away, just as an impression mat. So have a think about when you're looking at things like the dinosaurs and the dragons. If I bring this to the forefront, oh come on boy, here we go. But I've not covered this dinosaur all in one go, I've covered him in sections. You can't tell that I've covered him in sections, and I've just covered it, and then I've used this as an impression mat, and I've literally just been impressing. If I need to get into a corner, then I fold it and I literally rock it backwards and forwards into all of those little grooves and gaps. Because I've got the eye detail, can you see how the eye mould goes around the corner? Absolutely brilliant for getting into little spaces. But I mean, for a skin or a leather, we were discussing elephants, doesn't even have to be dragons. It really could be absolutely anything. If I just pop you back in there. And again on this one, oh, it's a little, this is the one that needs a name. We need to name him. But how cute is he? He is this, you remember I was talking about that gold sunset? That's it. Can you see how it's red and gold at the same time? Absolutely stunning. So this little fella, or it might be a little girl, don't know, needs a name, but that might let you in some secrets as to how that's been done. There's loads of other cool secrets in there though, because this one is actually a class at the moment, but how fabaroony is he? Or she, sorry. So there's loads and loads of different ways that you can use this new set of moulds. I absolutely love it. It's become a new personal favourite of mine. And hopefully you've seen just how easy it is to create something that looks utterly unique, I think looks really stunning, but hasn't taken us a great deal of time at all. So I've been Dawn Butler from Dinky Doodle Designs, and thank you very, very much. We've got, before I go, come on in.
Hi guys.
Some very, very exciting news. Tell us all.
So, yesterday it was announced that we won the Housewares Award for our unicorn mould.
How
and
fun.
As well as this, which one's which? There's the unicorn mould, that's our certificate. We also have the continuous quilt, which was highly commended.
Yay! Absolutely, it's one of my favourites, that is. One of my favourites, so absolutely brilliant. Many, many, many congratulations. What you guys don't see is the hours and hours, if not weeks or months, of work that goes into designing these things, putting them together, putting the cakes together, and making it from a drawing and a design to an actual product. So to receive some sort of accolation and award for that is
lovely.
Absolutely brilliant. Really, really brilliant, and truly well deserved.
Yes, yeah.
So
we're currently
congratulations from
running
me.
an offer on both of these, which is 15% off with code WINNER15. And then on top of that, we've also got the entire Dragons range, which is £10 off as well.
I know, I couldn't believe that when I saw it. So £10 off the whole Dragon range, which you'll get in the skin, you'll get in the eyes, you'll get in the claws as part of the set. The things have come up at the bottom, so with Fantasy. Grab that whilst you can, because that's tenner off. And then what did you say was off these?
It's 15%.
So 15% off the quilted and off the unicorn.
Yeah.
And you're putting in WINNER15.
WINNER15.
WINNER15 is the code in there. So grab those quickly. It's not going to be too long before I'm back. So we'll see what it is that I've got up my sleeve for next time. But until then, thank you so much for watching me on a Wednesday afternoon, and we'll see you soon.